Hi and welcome to my channel, A Country Life. I'm Jennifer. I'm in the kitchen today, as you guys can see, and I am taking you along on my very first try at canning dry beans. So first off, I purchased my dry beans from Dollar Tree, which I'll talk a little bit about later on in the video. So I bought 4 pounds of dry beans, so that was $4. And my number one reason for doing this is really just to save money. We go through a lot of beans, we make a lot of chili, tacos, other things like that, and I thought if I could have my own beans, then I probably would save some money. So as you can see, the first thing that you need to do when starting to can something like this is to wash them. They are probably not well cleaned during the harvest process, and so I'm just washing my beans, looking and picking out maybe any stones or any beans that just kind of look funny. As I start this, something surprising happens. The bean skins actually start to get all shrivelly, and I start feeling like I have to pick out a whole bunch, and I'm not really sure what's going on. So I do take a quick stop and I do a little internet search to see what I can find out, and I find out that it is very typical when you first get beans wet that the skin will wrinkle, and that could be for a number of reasons. One, that the beans weren't dried properly during the harvesting process, and it also could be, number 2, because the beans were handled roughly, which takes me back to the idea that I did buy these at Dollar Tree, so I'm guessing that they probably were not handled with the greatest of care. And thirdly, the skins actually take on the water first, and since the inside of the bean can't absorb the water that quickly, the outside doesn't really have anything pressing on the skin. Does that make sense? And so the skin wrinkles rather than staying kind of like a taut and really tightly attached to the bean. I have my supplies here just to get ready. I'm grabbing out my canning rings, inspecting them. Anything that is really, really rusty, I'm going to set aside and recycling those. I also have to get my water warming, and I'll just be adding my lids to the warm water so that it can soften the seal. Before I started this whole process, I went down to the basement and grabbed a whole bunch of my canning jars. I'm using all regular mouth jars and all pint jars, and so I did put them into the dishwasher so that they were nice and clean before starting the canning process. So here you can see I'm just inspecting them, holding them up to the light to check for any cracks that might have, happened either in the while carrying them up or carrying them down or whatever. I let my kids help me carry things up and down the basement steps, and so sometimes things just happen. I also get my spot ready, so I lay out all my jars, as many as I think I'm going to be needing. And so then I start adding a half cup of dry kidney beans to each pint jar. So earlier I mentioned that I wanted to can dry beans simply to save money, and I really did find it to be a huge money saver because I can't remember right this second, but I do know in the end I ended up with a lot of beans. I think somewhere around 21 or so pints of beans for only $4, which is really a great savings compared to in the store. So I'm going to fill my pint jars with boiling water. And so you can see I'm just getting a pot of water on the stove. And since the kidney beans was going, it's just going so smoothly, I thought I'm going to just check my pantry and see what else I have. I did end up finding a half a bag of black beans, and so I thought I'm just going to do those too. Since I have the canner up, I might as well. Like I always say, if I'm in the kitchen, I might as well be doing kitchen stuff. Then to each pint jar, I add a half a teaspoon of salt. And I'm using kosher salt because I didn't happen to have any canning salt on hand, but kosher salt works just as well. And by this time, my boiling water is all ready to go, so I just start scooping that up with my very favorite Pioneer Woman little ceramic pitcher, and I just fill each one of my jars up to 1 inch from the top, which basically takes you to just where the jar starts to kind of neck down and where there's the bottom little ring. And then it's really important to use a wooden or plastic utensil to kind of stir around whatever it might be that you're canning. This helps to get out any air bubbles. I have a Miro pressure canner, and I need to put 2 quarts of water into that. And then before sealing up my jars, I do take a damp paper towel and just wipe the rims just to be sure there isn't any grains of salt or anything else that might cause the lid to not seal tightly. Here I'm just putting all the lids on. And as soon as I have the lids on, then I just screw the bands on finger tight. And now that the water is hot in my canner, I'm just placing all of the pints into my canner. As you can see, my canner fits 9 pints. It's not the biggest canner out there, but it does get the job done. A pressure canning lid goes on to the canner really only one way, and you have to line everything up properly and get that on nice and tight. And then I just crank my heat up to high, and I start watching for the steam to come out of the little vent. I want it to steam for 10 minutes. In the meantime, I get all my things ready, get a double layer of toweling ready, and then I'm also getting my pressure gauge ready to go. As soon as that vents for 10 minutes, which means steam has been pouring out of that vent tube, then it's time to put the weight on. The proper weight for canning dry beans is 10 pounds of pressure. Once the weight starts to jiggle, it's time to turn the heat down. So on my gas stove, I'm going to turn the heat down to 2, and then I actually will end up turning it just a slightly below the number 2 for the heat level. I'm watching and listening for my weight to jiggle about 3 to 4 times throughout an entire minute. So it kind of goes rock, 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 and then you wait. You want to be able to wait about 15 seconds, and then you want it to kind of go rock, 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 and then wait another 15 seconds. That's how you know that it's just kind of doing the right thing. Immediately after hearing the first rock, rock, rock and turning the temperature down, I set my timer for 75 minutes. Once that 75 minutes is up, then I turn the heat off completely, but I don't touch the canner. It's really important not to touch that weight before the pressure has gone down inside the canner. Otherwise, you could have a lot of water escaping your jars if the pressure just gets released too quickly. This can take sometimes a half an hour or 45 minutes. In order to test it, after a half an hour or so, I just give it a little tap with my finger, and if nothing happens, which means no steam escapes or anything, I'm ready to take the lid off. It's important to take the lid off away from your face so that you don't end up with that steam in your face. And now I just use my jar lifter, and I lift out each and every one of those beautiful cans of kidney beans, and I cannot tell you how tickled I am to have done this for the first time. There is just something so incredibly satisfying with canning, and as you can see now, I'm just kind of watching there. I'm pointing to the lid, and you can see that the little bumps are up. Whoops, I just pointed to another one, and that one just popped down. That's how you know that your jar is sealed, and sometimes it can take up to 24 hours in order for it to seal. They do look a little bit different, not quite as firm as the store-bought kidney beans, but I still think that they look great, and I know they're going to taste fantastic. I added some more water because I need to keep my pressure canner at about 2 quarts of water in there. And then I just start all over with another batch. I processed all those that evening, which did take quite a long time because they have to go 75 minutes. And then here they are the next day, just taking a good look at them. They really absorbed the water. I was very surprised at how the black beans especially absorbed all the water. And now I'm just going to give them a little tap so that you can hear the difference between a good seal and a bad seal. Okay, did you hear that? How they all had a certain sound and then one just seemed to sound a little bit more hollow than the others. That one had a bad seal, so that I will just put in the fridge and use up. I unscrewed all of the bands, and another way you can test the seal is just kind of pick them up gently by the lid, give them a little bit of a wiggle and see if that lid stays on or if it pops off. Always label. This is something that I'm not good at, but Warren has reminded me many times that he appreciates it when I have things labeled, because when he goes to get some kind of jam or something, he really, for some reason, likes to know what's in the jars. So here I am doing such a nice job labeling everything, and I even put the date 2019 because all of the boxes say that contents in the jars stay safe and edible for up to 18 months. So it's really important to put that year on there so you know just how long they've been in the pantry. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video. It was a lot of fun canning these dry beans for the first time, and definitely if you like this type of video and you've made it this far, give it a thumbs up. I appreciate it. Thanks. You guys have a great day.